shine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
My name is Labuschagne. I'm fourth generation Zimbabwean from cattle ranching background. Grew up struggling as a youngster and started my own business shortly after leaving school. And through a lot of luck and lots of hard work, I became very successful to the stage where I was flying my own aircraft, had 5 companies that I was running. Everything was going fantastic in the safari industry. And then I had an incident on Lake Kariba chasing poachers where I was accused of drowning one poacher in a politically motivated event. In that time of the year, in that time of Zimbabwe's history, when 2000, just after the land invasion started, I was convicted in 2003 of 15 years for supposedly drowning that poacher, who's now living in Zambia, which is a well-known fact in that area. Unfortunately, it became a very political issue, my case, and I spent 10 years in Zimbabwe's prison. And 4.5 years of that was in Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison, which is notorious. I spent 2 years in solitary confinement for a cell phone misdemeanor. And then my last 2 years I spent on a prison farm, an open farm. 100 carefully selected prisoners were chosen to run a farm for the prison service. In my first 6 years, I watched over 2,200 guys die, primarily from malnutrition. It was during the Zimbabwe crash. There was no food outside of prison even. Just to give you an example of my first day in prison, I arrived there, they make you strip naked. You walk into the prison stark naked. I was put in a cell with 78 other inmates. The cell was 13 meters long by 3 meters wide. We were 78 guys. So everyone had 33 centimeters of space marked out on the walls in chalk. We were packed like sardines, with legs all crossing over in the middle. We all faced the same direction. When you turned over, it was all together. As cushioning against the cold concrete floor, you'd fold 2 of your paper-thin, worn-out, lice-ridden blankets several times to fit your space, then covered yourself with a third one. Your clothes were wrapped around your toothbrush and toothpaste, or they'd get stolen, and that was your pillow. I think the worst thing to deal with in those 8 years were the lice that never went away, ever. They would crawl and bite day and night, leaving itchy, weeping blisters. And the other big thing is that there's no furniture whatsoever in any prisons in Zim. So you're sleeping on the floor, there's no beds, tables, chairs, cupboards, nothing. Just rows of filthy folded blankets and hundreds of well-used water bottles on bare concrete floors. And we were only allowed 1 set of clothing at any one time. So you'd get a set of clothing, and after 6 months, you get a change of clothing. Sometimes, other times after 9 months, leaving you walking around in tatters. But there were no basins or taps in the cells. So we had to wash our clothes in the cell toilets at night, wearing a blanket. Then hang them on the walls with smuggled book staples to dry by the next morning. It was hectic. But all that being said, I think the biggest thing I'd like to give people out of my experience, which is what I'm doing all my talks for. Well, I'm represented by Unique Speaker Bureau, and I'm on the Premier Speaker list of guys to talk. And my messages are a positive mental attitude. And we all, I've learned not to let past thoughts hurt me. The past only exists in your head. It can only come to life if you let it. To be able to find positives in all the negatives going on around you to find positive in all the negatives gave me hope, which was a huge thing in there. And to be able to find negatives in all the happiness and all the negatives going on around me kept me healthy. Those who couldn't died. Life in prison or in Las Vegas is still just life. It's what you make of it, no matter where you are. And another huge lesson I learned was the power of forgiveness. The humility of being able to murder in terrible conditions were extremely hard to deal with, as was the pain of my bitterness, anger, hatred, frustration, and revenge. What they'd done and were doing to me. I hated them bitterly. And initially would lie there for hours, wishing every terrible thing on each of them in turn. In the end, I was only hurting myself. I was carrying all that in my head and beating myself up for nothing. The single biggest lesson I learned in prison was true forgiveness. And I now know what Nelson Mandela meant by forgiveness. And I believe it's bigger than anything we can achieve on our own. I believe true forgiveness is inspired by God Almighty, and so is letting go. It was a huge weight off my shoulders. And I learned to live in the moment from then on, because the past was too painful and the future full of unkept promises. Another huge lesson I learned was gratitude. We all want too much in our lives, concentrating on what we haven't got instead of being grateful for what we have. And for me, giving thanks every day goes a long way. For my health, beautiful family, lovely home, a soft bed, running water, and so on. When there's no food, no water, and people are dying all around you, you become grateful for the fact that you're still breathing. And another day is a blessing. When you lie in a cell with 78 other people, and your breath is not even your own, gratitude suddenly has a different meaning altogether. And then finally, freedom. People don't appreciate freedom. And it's only when, and I've realized that people, even when they are not in prison, create their own prisons. In sour business partnerships, badly selected careers, being obsessed with ambition in the corporate world, even unhappy marriages. And it's only when you have your freedom completely taken away, you realize in many ways that you were actually in prison too. When I look back on it all, it makes me wish I could somehow get through to people how precious and priceless freedom is. If you look at your life as it is right now, how free are you within your circumstances? Freedom is not just not being in prison. Freedom is the ability to make a choice and act on it. Freedom is letting go of what you can't control. Freedom is forgiveness. Freedom is being free from negativity. Freedom brings health. If you can be free in all areas of your life, then you'll reach your full potential. Yeah. So those are the main things I'd like people to take away from what I have for what I went through. Another huge part that I'm working on now is the health side of the whole world needs to be more aware of health. And when I got to my first maximum security prison, I started exercising because I was always a health fanatic, being a national rugby player and everything. And I started just doing some press ups and stuff, and the other person said, "You can't do that. The guards will beat you." So I said, "Why not?" And I said, No, they'll think you're trying to get strong so you can beat them up. I said, "Go and tell the guards that I'm exercising." And of course they went off. 5 guards came. One had 3 pips, so he's quite a big guy. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just exercising, officer." He said, "We don't allow that." I said, "I'm just trying to keep healthy." He said, "We don't allow prisoners to exercise." I said, "I'll tell you what, go and tell the officer in charge I'm exercising." So he went in, and my incident was national news on the front page of every headlines everywhere. So the officer in charge had been briefed by my lawyer to take care of this guy, because he's not just the normal. So obviously when they went to see him, he said, "You just leave him alone." Now I started gym classes in prison. Yeah. And eventually I had about up to 10 guys at a time, and I was the only one allowed to do that in the first maximum security prison. And then I was transferred to Chikurubi maximum security prison. When I arrived there, from all the transfers over the year, they had been advised that I'm arriving. So when I arrived there, they said, "Are you the guy, the gym guy?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm the guy." At Chikurubi Max, I was the only one allowed to exercise again. So I carried on all that. Even throughout all the water crisis, I didn't mention it earlier, but in 2005, Harare City ran out of water. For 3 years, while in Chikurubi Maximum Security Prison, Each prisoner was allocated only 1 cup of water a day, and that was 1 cup of dirty orange city runoff water from a nearby dam carried by the farm prisoners for the maximum security guard. So we were locked up for 20 hours a day. You can imagine how thirsty you get locked in a cell for 20 hours a day with 1 cup of water. That was to drink, clean your teeth, wash your face, bath, everything. And even during that time, because you could buy that dirty water from the farm prisoners who carried it at 20 medicine cigarettes for 20 liters, which made a huge difference. But only a very few of us could do that, because money, the cigarettes are money in prison. So I always, every single day, I had a bath, even if it was in 1 liter of water. So you learn. So I made sure that I exercised every day and I bathed every day. And it takes a lot in your mindset to do that. So that's another lesson I just want people to get, is the resilience and to understand the importance of health in one's life. Because when you put through that and you're watching people die every day, you realize how important it is. And yeah, we used to sit there and watch guys come in, and we used to say, that guy's not going to make it. Because you could see the guys that were jovial and they could handle it, and those that were really beaten up in their heads. And we'd say, they won't, and within 2 months, he was gone. And it's just so important how people need to understand that if you don't find happiness in everyday life, it'll going to affect you in one way or another. And the other thing is leadership. Because I was the only white guy in my first prison for 1 year. So 1,000 black guys, only white guy. And you must know what that feels like. Walking in naked. It was incredibly humiliating. And being somebody, I was somebody outside. I was respected. I'd built up my reputation. And when I went in there, I was flying high, bulletproof. You know, money was no issue, everything was fantastic. But when you get in there, they crush you. They break your confidence and your spirit, and in every way make you to feel like hell. And when you push so, you know, we all love to live in our comfort zones. And when pushed so far out of it, you have to dig really deep to find solutions to get through that. And you grow. You learn things that others never have to. As long as you can take the good and leave that horror behind. And it's unbelievable how our minds can shut stuff off. So, and people have said to me, have you ever thought about seeing a psychiatrist? And I said to them, what psychiatrist can ever teach me anything? They've never been there. They don't know how to get through that. So I gained a lot from those things. As long as you're smart enough to see where you can gain and leave that stuff and just cut it off. And people say, how did you forgive? And it was amazing, because it was one day after about 2 years, I just had enough of all the anger, hatred, bitterness. It was draining me and dragging me down. And I remember walking in the exercise yard, thinking how angry and, you know, every day is draining me. And I thought, just let the Lord take care of that. And the day I accepted that, and just said, let him take care of that. What goes around comes around, their day will come. My whole life changed. But those small negative thoughts kept creeping back, and I'd keep pushing them away until I had forgiven them wholeheartedly. And once that happened, my life changed. After I'd left prison, I spent $42,000 US dollars trying to find the assumed deceased with private investigators. We got affidavits from guys that had been with him since the incident. The authorities weren't interested. They wanted him, then bring your story. And I realized that they'd taken all my businesses, 10 years of my life, and I was just giving them more and more. So I don't give them one more second of my thoughts now. Nothing. That's all behind me. I still have my health, a beautiful family, a lovely girlfriend, beautiful home. My life in front of me is fantastic. So I'm not interested in any of that negative stuff. And I've also managed to carry positiveness outside of prison. I don't let negative stuff affect me because it's draining. So I've always believed that if you hang around negative people, you'll become negative. So when I socialize and it's not jovial and the right thing, then I move on. Yeah, and it's not like I'm trying to be not snooty or something. It's just I don't need that negative stuff anymore. I've had enough negativity. And I think it's important for people to understand that and to learn from that. And that's what I'm doing now. I want people to gain, and what I get out of it is changing lives. You have no idea how many people today just walking around stopped me and said, that was unbelievable. And one of them was the owner and MD of this EduWeek. So it was amazing. I mean, they came and sat down and they said, you changed my life last night. And the one lady has had cancer treatment for 18 months. Really low, very powerful lady. And she said, your talk changed me last night completely. And those sort of things make it different for me. So that's my message, and that's what I'm doing. And also, I've always been a wildlife enthusiast. I grew up in the bush as a farm boy, and I've always loved the wildlife and being involved in the wildlife industry. So when I was released, I had nothing. And Andy Connolly, who is a wildlife enthusiast in Zimbabwe and has an incredible setup at Antelope Park in Zimbabwe outside Gweru, he called me and said, Russ, I've got this vision of training not only the public but school children about nature and wildlife. Why don't we form a company called Pathfinders and start doing that? And in the meantime, when we can't do that, we'll start guiding executives and teach them what you've learned. You know so much, and I can help you. So we went into a venture. So Pathfinders is about educating executives on executive excursions and school children, up to 300 at a time. And we take them out into the bush and teach them. Instead of sitting on your cell phone and your iPad and all that, go and learn how to make a fire and small things. Let's see what a buffalo track looks like and what a kudu track looks like and all those things, different sounds of the bush and everything. And I think it's so important that we start getting kids to start appreciating how important wildlife is and not just destroying it, because in the past it's been something that we can sustain ourselves with. It's not like that anymore. We need to take care of our environment. So that's our message.
I love it. Can you just tell us where people can find out more about Pathfinders and also where they can find out about you and get you talking in your sessions? How do people access you?
Okay, the first thing, where can you find out about me? Okay, so I'm a public speaker. My agents are Unique Speaker Bureau, and you can Google them. I'm based in Cape Town, but I've also got a home here in Joburg. So I spend about 10 days here and the rest of the time in Cape Town, but I'm flying all over the place all the time doing my talks. And then Pathfinders are based in the booking offices in Cape Town. You can also Google that, Pathfinders. But the areas that we operate in, we've got camps all over the place, but the headquarters is in the Greater Kruger National Park. Yeah, and they're involved in community projects, all different things. Andy Connolly's brain is all over the world. He's got 92 community projects in 13 countries around Africa. So they're amazing. From old age home, looking after old age homes, to stuff in the communal areas where you're teaching kids how to do different things, and it's incredible. So I'm involved in all of this, and it's really exciting. So for any more information for anybody, to contact me to do a talk, or to come and experience the wildlife, or to bring the kids, just Pathfinders and Unique Speaker Bureau.
For more stories like these, go to www.social-tv.co.za, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on our social mediums.